The IRS has announced that January 27 is going to be the start date to this 2025 tax filing season. So what that means is that January 27th is going to be the first date that taxpayers are going to be able to electronically file their returns to the IRS and get those returns processing. So let's look at the notice. This was recently published in their newsroom on the irs.gov website. So we'll go through some of the important things to remember here and keep some important dates in the back of our minds so we don't miss any filings. So the 2025 season, what we're referring to is the current calendar year, 2025, but we are filing the 2024 tax returns. So these are your Form 1040 for 2024, and if you're a business, this is covering the calendar year Jan 1 through December 31st, 2024. Now again, the IRS has announced that the e-filing is going to open on the 27th. Now, if you are starting to prepare your return early, right, using a tax software platform, so TurboTax, H&R Block, TaxSlayer, TaxAct, whatever it might be, they advertise that you can start prepping your return and you can even submit it to them, but they actually hold it, right? They don't actually submit anything until the 27th because the e-file servers just don't even open up. So go ahead and start as early as you can, but even if you push the button now to submit to your tax preparer, they're not actually going to submit anything until the 27th because the e-file servers are closed. Now, paper file returns, I stress this every year, and the IRS does as well. Please do not paper file your return unless absolutely necessary. So the paper file returns, they're just not as accurate. They take much longer to process. You're looking at minimum of 2 months for them to receive the mail, open it, scan it in, have somebody look at it. It just takes way too much time, and it's not as accurate. You very often get IRS notices because something was missing or calculated incorrectly. So make sure to electronically file using either an approved tax return prep software, or you can use the IRS's new Direct File Program if you live in an eligible state. Now, as far as filing deadlines, April 15th is the deadline this year. Some years you'll notice that it changes by a day or two because if April 15th falls on a weekend or a federal holiday, then it gets pushed a day. But in this case, April 15th is going to be the deadline. Extensions are always available. Individuals, if you file this extension, it's granted automatically. Now, it doesn't extend your time to pay the tax, but you can submit your 1040 up until October 15th, 2025 for this year. Now, really, really important to remember as well, if you're filing a return that has child tax credits or the earned income tax credit, there is always a delay on when you'll get your refund. So by law, the IRS can issue a refund if you have earned income tax credit, so the EITC, or the refundable child tax credit, which is the additional child tax credit, before mid-February. And this is because of the PATH Act. So the PATH Act basically puts this hold, and it's to try to combat fraud and things like that. So if you file a return on January 27th, for example, but you have the EITC or the ACTC, even if you file on the 27th and you get a refund, the IRS is going to hold the whole amount until we pass this PATH Act date, okay? Now, other really important dates and some things to remember here. So very unfortunately, we've got some massive wildfires going on in Southern California. And so the IRS has published a notice that if you are a business or individual located in LA County, you're going to get an automatic extension to file your returns to make certain payments up until October 15th, 2025. And so if you visit the IRS website, again, in the IRS news release, they have a section indicating that California wildfire victims are going to qualify for tax relief. Now, if you want more specifics on who actually qualifies for the relief, depending on where you live, you can look up the specific disaster area through the IRS website or the FEMA website. So if we look at, for example, the Hurricanes Milton and Helene victims, these individuals had their 2023 returns extended. So if they filed an extension for their 2023 tax return last year, the IRS pushed the due date back to February 2nd, 2025, which is only 2 weeks away, or May 1st, 2025, depending on the location. And if we take a quick look at just the notice and how to look up these disaster areas. So this is the IRS news release where they extended those 2023 returns and provided a reminder. So this was posted on Jan 3rd. They're reminding taxpayers that, look, if you didn't file your 2023 return because it was on an extension and you were in a disaster area, you have until Feb or May 1st to get these returns filed, and they tell you in which locations these applied. Now, if you look at the disaster relief page on the IRS, so if we open this tab up and take a look at this page, you can look up the tax relief in certain disaster situations, and it's by state or by year. So if we click on get information for your state, and let's say we want to look up the California notices. Let's say we're living in California. You can see all the notices that were published for both the current year and prior years about what relief is available for these wildfire victims. So the first notice the IRS published was Jan 10. California wildfire victims qualify for tax reliefs. Various deadlines were postponed to October 15. So if we open that, you can read this notice and find out who applies. So based on the notice provided on Jan 10, what they've indicated is that individuals and households that reside or have a business in LA County qualify for relief. So it hasn't been expanded to other areas in California. Right now it's exclusively to LA County, but if you are a business or an individual located in LA County, you may qualify, or you do qualify for relief rather. So the relief includes things like individual income tax returns and payments, which are normally due on April 15th are now moved to October 15th. And so they provide a comprehensive list here about what returns, what payments qualify for relief, so you can make sure that you don't have to worry about rushing to get a return done. The priority here is to stay safe, get out of these disaster areas, and make sure that you and your family are okay. Now, just to touch on one last thing, on the paper file returns and the e-file returns. So last year, the IRS rolled out their Direct File Program. I want to just highlight that page here. So the IRS Direct File Program is available again in 2025. I'll put a link in the description if you want to go check out that website. So not everybody is eligible, so only certain states have eligibility to use this Direct File Program. They do provide a Q&A to go through which state you live and work in and all these other elements to see whether or not you qualify for this free file program. But just to be clear, this is different from the e-file, the free file options that are available with certain tax return providers. So if you use the direct file, you're working exclusively with the IRS. In many years prior, and in the current year as well, the IRS has relationships with other tax return software providers where there might be a free file option. So in other words, you could use TurboTax if you qualify and file for free through TurboTax. Now the IRS has their own option, so you don't have to do that anymore. All right. So again, I'll put a link to this below, and I'll add a link to the general e-file options that are available on the IRS page. So you can see here you can file with an IRS Free File Partner. That's what I was referring to about using TurboTax or Tax Act. If your income is low enough and you qualify for meeting other criteria, you can use the Free File Partner, or you can use just regular tax prep software, or you can use that IRS Direct File provider as well. Okay. All right. So that covers it for this video. I hope that was helpful. Again, I'll put a link below to all of these pages. So the IRS Newsroom, very, very helpful. Shows all the updates that the IRS publishes. They're going to publish a lot of these throughout the tax season, so we'll get those in there. And then again, the general notice about the start date to the 2025 tax filing season, and then all the other links about the disaster file areas and how to qualify for all those direct file or e-file free options. All right. So thanks so much, and have a happy tax season.